Hello and welcome to another reThink Games with Scott Novus. And you're finding me here working from home like a lot of you are right now. And in this season 1, episode 2, I'm going to reconfigure things a little bit. I had originally planned to do this great series on forming an in-person esports league, and I think that topically we're going to have to wait a little while before we roll that programming out. So I'm doing what a lot of you are doing. I'm pivoting right now and adapting to the situation. And so in this episode, I want to share with you 5 tips about working remotely. Yes, we're all finding ourselves, the entire world just became a group of isolated gamers. How about that? Well, if you're a leader, manager, or part of a company that now finds themselves working remotely and you weren't planning on it, I'm going to share with you 5 things you could do to make working from home or working remotely easier and how to stay connected with your team. Personally, I love working with a group of people. I find the dynamic of creativity, the spontaneity, being able to see the energy flow around the room. If you look at all the companies I've formed and everything that I've worked in, I've always been about sort of that tribe. Like get everybody together and feel the energy and communicate and share. Even at Rainbow Studios and development, we had these sort of bullpen areas where people could hear each other and listen and drop in on conversations as we were solving hard problems. And I just love that dynamic. So for me, I find work remote particularly challenging. So what that means is I have to be way more intentional about how I interact with my now remote coworkers. Now, Arizona doesn't plan on shelter in place, so we still are able to go to the office, but very often a number of our team members have quarantined because they're not sure. They want to wait to make sure there's no contagion going on. So we're the most distributed we've ever been, and I'm practicing working remotely, and we're getting everybody to get in that mode that could change any day now, where we're all going to work remotely. So here's our 5 keys. Here's what we're working on. One of the things you could do is every week just release a short video update for the whole team. So they get to see your face, they hear you talk, and you talk about maybe new releases, you talk about progress, you give a status update for the company, but you make it easy and available for everybody, let's say every Monday morning, could be every Friday, but you release a really short 1 to 2 minute video where you record an update, and they get to see you. So it gives you a little bit more energy, a little bit more interaction than simply a text email, right? Because we're craving that human connection and face-to-face. Number 2, and this is kind of an interesting one, and this goes back to something Kira Satrian wrote in her book, Stop Being Lonely, and it's set up cross-team one-to-ones. There are some plugins you can use inside of Slack. One of them is called Donut. This is also a thing that we tend to do in my EO group, sort of a mastermind, is in order to cultivate more connection, is we'll randomly assign lunch partners. Well, you can do the same thing. You can randomly assign groups of people over the week that are going to connect with each other, 15 to 20 minutes, like a coffee break, but more intentional. No particular subject, though sometimes you might seed that with some ideas like, hey, why don't you talk about movies you just watched or games you like to play, or give just some topic to get it started. It doesn't and should not be about work. It's about intentionally recreating that casual connection time that we all crave. As we get to know each other better, then it builds more commonality and more trust. What we really want to try to get to is access to this sort of internal mental landscape. The better I know you, then the easier it is for us to work together. And one of the things, why video, why you want to do this visually, in his phenomenal book, Talking with Strangers, Malcolm Gladwell points out this concept that's called transparency. And I think because we're such a video-driven culture over the last 100 years, we bought into this myth that we can tell how someone feels by looking at their face. And we have trained a generation, multiple generations of actors, have all indoctrinated us into this belief. Turns out it's not true. Half the people are mismatched. That even when they did a test where they threw people into an environment and they surprised them and they video recorded them, people did not believe the expression on their own face when they were shown the video. They were asked to describe what they showed on their face, and they were shown what they did, and they couldn't believe it. So there's not actually any biological connection between facial expression and internal emotion. It's a myth that we've all kind of bought into and we believe, and there's all sorts of data around it, But when a group of scientists went out and actually tested it as a species level, in other words, they went to all sorts of remote cultures, they found zero correlation. Facial expression is largely cultural, and even then, you only have about a 30 to 40% chance of it being accurate. So you really actually get to need to know the other person to know what they're thinking and feeling. You have to ask them. You have to be intentional about it. And that's what these one-on-one cross-team things are. You just can't assume you know how the other person's feeling. You have to realize you don't know, and then get intentional about asking. And we learn those things by, well, how did that go for you? And those kind of great questions. So creating these one-on-one cross-team interactions is really important. Number 3, you can set up topical group chats. Think book club. So what movies did you guys watch this week? And these are group chats. Google Hangout or Meetup is great for this. Zoom is phenomenal for this. We don't use Blue Jeans, but there's a number of video type conferencing things you can use. But the idea here is to have more of a, give everybody, 5 minutes or so. So the length of the meeting depends on how many people participate. But around 10, it's sort of asynchronous. So imagine an array of little screens. You might even use Marco Polo for people to just go back and forth. But the idea is that you're circling in on a common topic. It could be share the best app on your phone. What is the best yoga app you found or the best meditation app? But everybody is sharing, and it's great for the introverts because it gives them time to think about what they want to say, and they absolutely have something to share, and usually well thought out and very valuable. So this creates another opportunity for connection across the entire team. Another one is when people are going to be extendedly working from home is sort of the personal share. Like, tell us a little bit about your environment. Tell us a little bit about how you work. For example, if you would see the video version of this, you'd see there's a giant Lego Saturn rocket right behind me. And I could talk about how much fun that was to build and the hobbies and the things I'm into that spark my creativity. My desk is covered with toys. There's all sorts of stuff. And that personal share helps everybody get to know each other a little bit better. And so that's another way that you can schedule maybe once a month for people to say, hey, here's the environment I'm in. And as we open up and we share a little bit more, we get to know each other more. That creates more connection, more friendship. And finally, for managers and leaders, we got to schedule those regular one-on-ones. They're more important than ever now, especially I know everybody's dealing with a lot. We have tons of stuff going on where lots of business challenges. My goodness, some of the phone holds I'm on right now are just utterly epic. But everybody on the company is sort of uncertainty, that stress that comes from not knowing. Well, one of the things you can know is that you're connected to people that care about you. And so caring about the development, caring about what's happening for people, spending that one-on-one time, finding out how they're getting along, finding out how they're progressing in the work and the challenges, asking what they need and giving them space and getting open so that you have that opportunity to understand each other better. You just want to be way more intentional because the sort of spontaneous dynamic connection that happens when everybody's together in that mosh pit of creativity, it's gone. So how do we create it intentionally? So I'm going to recap my 5 points. Number 1, try recording video updates for the entire team so they can see you, hear your personality, make them fun. Don't be afraid to get on camera. Everybody understands today. Now is the time. If you were ever going to do it now. 2, set up the random one-on-ones across the team. Get people chatting with each other intentionally around sort of water cooler or donut, coffee-like discussions. Get them to share things they're interested in so they get to know each other. So you're building that web of connection, that net that will hold the emotional context of the whole team. 3, set up topical group chats. Make it fun, right? Put it on the calendar. Hey, we're going to take a break from talking about work. We need some tribal time to talk about our common interests that bind us together as a group. Number 4, personal share. Set up, again, another thing you could do is like once a month we're going to do, tell me about your work environment. Show me your desk. That kind of thing. Like, tell me about you. So give people that platform to share if they want. It's not a requirement, but once people start going and people want to start sharing, those types of things tend to flow. And finally, got to schedule the one-on-ones. Got to make the time to make sure people know they matter and they're important. I know I need to improve on that. It's something that's high priority for me, but I hope those 5 tips help you. lead with weekly video updates, set up random one-on-ones with your team, topical group chats like book club, encourage people to do personal shares so we get to see the environments they're working in, and schedule regular one-on-ones. That's this episode. I hope those things help you as you're working your way through these times, and I look forward to talking to you next week.